Welcome to the channel, everyone. I'm Skratch. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video. I am currently on the test server, guys. As you guys probably already saw from other content creators, we have a bunch of new champions coming in the next update, which most likely it will happen on Monday, together with the fusion. Now, along all of the champions, we have a brand new mythical champion from the Undead faction, and that is Theodosia The Disgraced. On the first impressions, she looked really strong, right? I do think she's a strong champion, don't get me wrong. I do have to admit it that the more I played her, the more I felt like, okay, maybe she's not as powerful as I initially thought on the first glance. So she is a support champion on both forms. Design-wise, she looks super badass, especially on the Metamorph form. Like, she looks so freaking badass in here. I love the design, really awesome. Let me just quickly walk you through the skills and kind of like show you how you could potentially use the champion. So, the base stats are pretty good. She has a very good base speed, 115. With the A1, attacks one enemy, heals all allies by 5% of this champion's max HP. The more HP on her, the more healing you're going to get. Fills the champion's turn meter by 5% for each alive ally, and an additional 2.5 per each alive enemy. So, you are going to gain quite a bit of turn meter on her. With the A2, removes all debuffs from all allies, then places a perfect veil buff on all allies except the champion for 2 turns, and then she places a stone skin buff on herself. With the A3, revives all dead allies with 50% HP and turn meter, and places an unkillable buff on all allies for 2 turns. Then you have the Metamorph, you have the passive. Every 7 turns equalizes the HP of all allies. The HP level of all allies will be brought to the average HP level of the team. Allies will receive 1% less damage for every 2% of the HP lost, stacking up to 25%. So you are going to have some damage reduction in there as well. You have a speed aura for all battles, 25%. And moving on to the second form, with the A1, attacks an enemy, destroys the target speed by 3%, stacking up to 30, and decreases the target's turn meter by 5 per each alive ally, and an additional 2.5 per each alive enemy. So you are going to decrease the turn meter on a target. With the A2, an AoE attack, before attacking, steals all buffs from all enemies, places a block buffs and a decreased defense debuff for 2 turns on all enemies. If an enemy's speed is lower than this champion's speed, the debuffs will be protected. And you have the A3, which places a sleep debuff for 1 turn and a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns on all enemies. If an enemy's speed is lower than this champion's speed, the decreased speed debuff will be protected, and it will decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 25%. With the passive, the champion is immune to block active skills. When allies attack, their damage is increased by 25% of the target's current turn meter. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. So this will give you some additional damage, which can be really good for the Hydra clan boss, as an example. And it could be really nice as well on the Chimera. Once again, you have the same aura, 25% in all battles. So, as I mentioned, she does seem like a pretty solid champion. Now, I will quickly give you a couple of things. I will tell you a couple of things on how I would make this champion. Because, as I've mentioned, initially, wow. Then you're like, well, that's missing, that's missing. So, on this skill right here, you don't have a block debuffs, right? An immunity on all of the team would be absolutely amazing, and to be honest, mandatory in the current meta. Comparing this champion with other mythicals or even other legendary champions that clans, I just feel like this can be a bit underwhelming. Now, the good thing is that a perfect veil is on a 3-turn cooldown, which can be really nice. With a revive, once again, you're only getting the unkillable buff. You're not really getting anything else whatsoever. No increased defense, no increased attack, no immunity, no shield, no strengthen. So it feels like it's lacking a little bit, at least in my opinion, right? Other than that, I feel like she is pretty good. She doesn't boost the turn meter either with the A2. So all of these things taken out of the skill makes the champion feel a bit underwhelming, especially if you're trying to use the champion in PvP. Either way, let me just quickly show you the build. I actually have a couple of different builds on her, or at least I'm planning to use a couple of different builds. So this is a Stone Skin and Supersonic build. She's a bit slower in here. The Ascension on the gear kind of sucks, unfortunately, so I don't really have the right stats on the Ascension. I have no materials to basically re-roll that. And these are the stats that I went for. So I don't have enough HP. I would definitely like to get her to at least 110k HP. 50 plus more speed would be amazing, because at 300 speed is a bit slow, I would say. But we have 838 resistance, 317 accuracy. Now I can get more resistance if I'm changing the masteries, but this is actually the second build that I want to use. So I'm quickly going to save it, and I'm quickly going to bring in the other build that I initially had on her, because I tried her first with higher accuracy, high speed, to ensure that even in PvP is going to be better, right? Now for PvE, at 300 speed, you're going to be faster than the Hydra Clan boss, than every single head, which means that all of the debuffs will be protected. For the Chimera, you will require to have slightly higher speed, but we can go in the Chimera with this build as an idea. Unfortunately, as I've mentioned, it is lacking because you have no immunity in here, you have no increased attack, you have no thermometer boost, you have no increased defense or anything like that. So I feel like because of it, this is actually lacking quite a bit in the Chimera. So you really need to find a way on how you can rotate your team. The good thing about her in the Chimera is this unkillable when you revive. This is actually massive versus the Ram form, because your champions, your damage dealers, will not just die after. Other than that, I'm not really feeling it like it's super OP for the Chimera. Now, as a blessing, I went with Intimidating Presence just to boost my aura a little bit, because hey, we do have a speed aura which can be really nice and is in all battles. I do have a relic on her, which is the Hallowed Hilt. Whenever the wearer heals an ally with an active skill, has a 25% chance to place a further buff on the ally for 1 turn, which will increase and decrease the damage taken or dealt by the ally that receives the buff by 10%. This gives me speed, HP, and resistance. So this is a very powerful relic. I don't have it on my main account. These are the gemstones that we have on. So whenever we revive, we gain some thermometer. Whenever an ally is killed by an enemy, we have a chance to decrease the cooldown of one of the skills, which can be really helpful. And the rest of them just gain some accuracy, because I don't really have very good circular gemstones. Masteries on the first build, guys. We have defense and support. Eagle Eye S tier 6. Lasting Gifts will increase the duration of Stone Skin buffs on herself as well. So that's something to keep in mind. And the main thing with a fast build like this, while it is beneficial for the second form, I feel like on the first form, unfortunately, as we have no thermometer, no immunity, we might just use the A2 skill, cleanse pretty much maybe nothing, or in a situation like this, we could potentially cleanse the HP burn from Gizmek. But once that is done, we're going to be able to get debuffed again. And that's mainly because we won't have any immunity. So that's why I'm not really feeling super excited about the mythical champion. But I'm very curious to hear your thoughts as well. Of course, not every single mythical champion needs to be a PvP champion. So this time around, I don't have her on a Stone Skin build. I'm going to cleanse that HP burn, right? I will put Stone Skin. I have it on for 2 turns. Then Lazarius is doing his thing. Thankfully, he did not dealt a lot of damage. Warlord locked us right here. We could potentially metamorph and wipe the entire team, but I don't want to do that, because I do want to show you a couple of different things. So let's just kill Warlord if we can. Okay, you do that. That's fine. And even if we metamorph, for example, right now, I feel like he's just not really posing such a massive threat. So, yes, you're stripping all of the buffs. You put the block buffs and other debuffs that are basically unremovable from the enemies because we are faster, which is good. But is no crowd control in there, is nothing to basically stop the enemy team from just completely wiping our entire team. As you guys can probably notice, right? So there we go. I'm going to let him do his things. And you see, bang. And he dealt that. We died. Right now I can metamorph. I can put him to sleep. Put a decreased speed on. Of course, right now I will wake him up because I'm going to deal damage. I'm not a fan of sleep in general, it would have been much better if it was a stun or a different form of crowd control to actually really empower the champion and really make it a threat. Let's just say you remove the buffs with the A2, and then you can move and put a stun or a petrification or something that will stop the enemies from taking a turn. Sleep is pretty useless. If they have an HP burn, it ticks, they wake up. If they have a poison, same story. If you touch them, same story. So I'm not a fan of sleep in general, and I feel like that will be one of the main things why the champion is not going to be as effective, to be honest. So if we are going to go versus a team like this, I'm actually going to drop Lazarius out of here, and who else should join it? I'm gonna go with 3 damage dealers basically versus this team and see if we can actually keep her alive, or Narcissus is going to wipe me. Okay, so they will boost their thermometer. Okay, so we can do this. We put a stone skin up, and now even if the Narcissus would wipe any of my champions, it doesn't really matter because I can actually revive them, right? So right now she's most likely going to die if that Narcissus is going to attack her. So I actually need to ensure that I'm losing the Veil on Gizmak and maybe make him the main threat. And because of it, I'm actually going to use the taunt. I can buff and maybe try to put one of the revivers to sleep. Okay, so we got 1 down. Can use the A1, equalize the HP every 7 turns. The A1 will be pretty helpful. So as expected, that was going to happen. A1 can take that Ancora down, hopefully. But as you can see, she's not really bringing anything to really push your team to make it strong from any point of view, in my opinion, right? Like, it's nice that she gives the Veil. It's nice that she puts the stone skin on herself. But it just doesn't feel like it's enough for PvP. Now, for PvE is a completely different story. You're going to see once we get to the Hydra Clan boss. But I just kind of like wanted to share my thoughts with you guys as well, right? So, in this case, we did not have any big threats that could remove our buffs. So, I'm going to do one more fight with the exact same format. I'm actually going to go versus this team right here. And hope that we are going to be faster. And I'm going to keep the exact same team. I'm not going to bring any threat to lock them or control them or anything like that, because I kind of like want to show you what the actual champion can do, right? So we got all of our skills increased, all the cooldown increased, sorry. So I'm going to go A1. Let's take him down, you see. And we survived. We haven't. We just got wrecked right there by Marius. I feel like he just counterattacked for whatever reason. We attempted probably to drop the thermometer on him, which is not great. So even if you would put her in stone skin without resistance, it's pretty much going to be the same story. So we went versus this team, right? If I'm gonna head back to the build, I'm quickly actually going to change what I have on her. So we're gonna go to presets. We're gonna bring this build. This will give us resistance, which should be enough to basically ensure that we're not dying when that Marius attacks us. I could change the masteries as well and gain 50 more resistance from here to drop the accuracy, which, to be honest, it won't really be a big problem, as we're gonna have enough accuracy to debuff most of the enemy team, especially if they're just fast, if they're just damage dealers, because we do ignore 20% of the target's resistance anyway with mythical champions. But in this format, for example, I feel like for PvP, it does work slightly better. Now, in the higher end, it's very hard to actually resist the enemy. This time around, we managed to do it. The enemy actually died. So right now, we're going to let Marius do his shenanigans. I'm going to avoid buffing. You see, we resisted, which is great. We got some thermometer. So right now, we can actually revive. I like that she puts unkillable on all of the team when she revives, even the allies that are alive, which I think is definitely a plus in my opinion. If I'm going to metamorph right now, the only thing that I'll be able to do is basically strip the buffs. Now, as I was mentioning, I have enough speed and I have enough accuracy to debuff them. And from here on, if I'm gonna metamorph right now, she's going to die. pretty much no matter what I'm doing, Marius will kill her. Plus, I can metamorph now anyway, but just as an idea, right? So weak hits, she's dead. Fear, let's see, not enough damage. Weak hits, but that was enough to kill Siphi. So I'm not seeing her as a wow champion for PvP. No matter what form I'm using, I feel like she's just lacking some of the things, which overall could put us in a situation where we're like, well, you know what? This is another mythical champion that's not that great. You know what I mean? Maybe some of you guys will think differently, right? Maybe you guys think that no, she's actually really, really good. Now, if we're gonna go back to the previous build, I'm not even gonna get a lot of pinpoint or anything like that because I don't really need it for PvE. I just want to make sure I have more speed than the Chimera. So I will actually have to basically introduce another piece of pinpoint, and we can go with this just to gain that speed. And right now, 417 should most likely be fast. 417, yeah, we're hell of a fast. We don't actually need to be that fast, sorry. For whatever reason, I thought that I was at 300 speed, not 400. So this speed is plenty for pretty much everything. Now, if we are going to go to PvE content, for example, if we're going to head onto the Hydra clan boss. So we're going to go to Nightmare. On the second form, if you guys remember, she's going to be able to increase the damage our allies deal by 25% of the enemy's star meter, right? So that should give us a bit of extra damage. Think about Firal's passive. Think about all of the other passives that will boost the damage. It's not really going to work like that because Firal will just give you 25% or 20% flat based off how many buffs you have on, right? So that's gonna be straight to the point. Here with her in the team is all about how much turn meter they have. Are they on full turn meter? Do they barely have any turn meter, etc.? Which overall will not really provide you with so much utility. So you can always start like this. You buff, you put a perfect veil, a stone skin on her. Then, because we are fairly fast, even if we are at 300 and a little bit, we should be able to basically take another turn before the enemies. As long as we are landing that decreased speed as well. This time around, we haven't landed the decreased speed on the Head of Blight. So for example, right now, we can actually put block buffs and defense down. They're all slower than us, so that means that the debuffs we are landing will not be cleansed by the Head of Decay, which is massive, to be honest. It's definitely a very good thing. Now, because we already had defense down for 3 turns on, it's not really gonna impact us. But we have no increased attack from her, no increased defense, no strengthen, no shield, no immunity, which really, really sucks in my opinion. So let's go in with this skill. And right now, we're not actually dealing any additional damage. You need your damage dealers to kind of like bring their own increased attack. You need a different champion to put that cleanse in here. The block buff, sorry, the immunity, if you really want to succeed. Other than that, it's not really going to be that much of a thing. So the passive was actually proccing, sorry, because I metamorphed, I forgot. Their damage is increased by 25% of the target's turn meter. So it is a bit confusing in a way or another, to be honest. It's not as plain and simple as half 4 buffs, bang, you're gonna get extra damage, right? But every time I'm dealing damage now, I am proccing her passive. You see, they are beneath me. So we are dealing additional damage, which is nice. But as I've mentioned, I think personally, I find it pretty hard to build a team around her to bring all of the necessary things. Like immunity is so important even in here because you don't want to get debuffed non-stop by the Hydra heads and stuff like that, you know. So let's see. Have the decreased speed, beautiful. You are decreasing slowly the speed on each one of the enemies, but that's only till they basically respawn again, and that's gone. So let's see the damage. We got a bit of extra damage from the passive. The more turn meter, the better. And where are we? Right now, we can land debuffs again, which, as you guys can probably notice, are protected. They cannot cleanse them, which is nice. Now I can actually metamorph and go back and getting the Veil, right? The Veil will help us. So let's do some damage in here. Okay. How did I got a weak hit with Calamitas on Force Affinity? Isn't he Spirit? What am I missing there? Maybe I've missed that. So now we can head over right here. Put a Perfect Veil. We have the Stone Skin, which means that even if we are targeting the Head of Torment, we're not going to get the debuffs, right? We're not going to get feared, at least for the moment. And every 7 turns, we are going to equalize the HP on all of the team. See, so A1, we actually hit the Head of Torment. Nothing happened, and that's mainly because we had a Stone Skin. I personally find the champion lacking a little bit. Let me know what you guys think. Would you like to summon this mythical champion, or is it not necessarily the most wanted champion on your list? Don't get me wrong. I think she can be nice for the Undead faction, but I feel like she's just not at the level of a proper mythical champion. That's how I find her so far from all of the playtesting that I've done with her. So we can put a Veil again. We have Stone Skin for 2 turns now. That Stone Skin can actually be removed. It doesn't have that 50-50 chance. So if the Head of Mischief will attack her, it will steal the Stone Skin from her. And what if we do this and do a bit of extra damage? The problem is that, do I have the increased attack right now on him? Yeah, so the increased attack stays on him from the passive, okay? Once that's gone, I'm not going to have increased attack on the team, which means that my Calamitas will be lacking a lot of damage. So the increased attack is going to go, and that's about it. We're not going to get that increased attack again. Now, right now, I can actually Metamorph once again. I can put defense down and block buffs. They are protected. But that is about it, guys. She is a support champion, and I feel like just not as powerful as I would like it to be for a mythical champion. Maybe it's just me. So we can actually regroup. We got some pretty good healing, 141k healing from her. Calamitas actually 1.8 million, but that's of course because of his passives. Other than that, as I've mentioned, for the Chimera, I think it's really, really hard to build a team around her. So if I'm dropping Elva from here and I'm bringing her in, what's going to happen? I have no immunity. I do have the cleanse. I have increased speed from the other champions, which is fine. The problem is I would replace a Reviver with her, right? Because that's the whole point of basically having her as a Reviver. The problem is she's lacking so many things. The turn meter boost for the entire team, the buffs, and I feel like she could potentially fit in a top 10 supports, Revivers for the Chimera, but I don't necessarily think that she is going to be massive in any of the content. Now, I do apologize if I ruined your mojo, guys, and you thought that this mythical champion will be the most OP champion. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. As usual, appreciate all of you guys watching. If you enjoyed the content, smash a like, subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.